Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific. For over 6 years now, we have been doing this, and the goal is productivity, helping mortgage professionals win big in the market. And guys, this is going to be another tough year from a macroeconomic standpoint. It's not easy to get families not only into escrow, but to close escrow. And so now more than ever, mortgage professionals need to be educators, need to be teachers, need to be coaches, need to be guides, need to have data. I just released a couple days ago our top 10 videos in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. And it is just super clear that when I look at all the interviews I did last year of $100 million producers, they're data-driven mortgage advisors. They have data and they're helping consumers make great decisions. So super pumped about today's guest. Before I bring Mike on stage for the first time, Deborah, I'm actually going to let you introduce him because while I had him on my list to get on this on the show, you're the one that reached out and made it happen. So what's up, Deborah Bird?
Good morning. Well, when I'm speaking or every time I'm coaching loan officers on how to be really the best resource for real estate agents, I'm like, can you just learn how to do their job better, please? And so one way to do that is to consume and be such a student of the market that you know how to give the best advice and help advise your real estate agents. And so obviously I'm a huge fan of Mortgage Coach simply because of how you can give better advice. But then I came across Altos Research and I fell in love at the fact that it was weekly, it's timely. Mike breaks it down in a way that's very easy to understand. I actually track it every time that he posts it in his YouTube channel, just to kind of get a pulse of where we are. Now, obviously, the different markets can sometimes vary from just national data, but if you guys wonder why I sound so smart sometimes, you can thank Mike because it's his data and it's his research.
Love it. I'm going to say one more thing, and then Deborah, you bring Mike on stage. I'm excited about this interview for a lot of reasons. One, he's a cool dude. Like, I loved his video, Hacking Happiness. So I watched that and I'm like, oh, this guy is not just your typical business guy, typical SaaS entrepreneur. I love the fact that he's using YouTube for good. Anytime social media is used to make people smarter and happier and more successful, I love that. Check it out, guys. I always advocate, you got to be the local leader in your marketplace. This guy's, at a national level, he's got 9,200 subscribers. The videos have been watched over 380,000 times. And check it out, guys. Like, these videos, it looks like you're putting them up weekly. And they're getting a lot of views. So 4,000 views, 7,000 views. But here's the deal, guys. Most realtors aren't watching these. Most realtors aren't taking action on these. So we're going to learn more about Mike. He's also got a subscription platform that's really reasonably priced. We'll talk about that at some point. So it's an opportunity for every loan officer to gain market share by being smarter and bringing more value to realtors. So Deborah, why don't you bring Mike on stage and let's have a conversation.
Well, I'm going to do it in true Deb fashion in the sense that, Mike is like us. He's a data geek, but he's also a really cool dude, even though you're kind of hard to find on social a little bit. But I've seen that you happen to be a Niners fan. You like to surf, you're into music, but you've been running Altos Research for about 16 years. And I know you'll go over a little bit with the merge with Housing Wire, but Mike, welcome. Finally, it's the first Friday of 2023. And what better guest than to have you on, as I also know this month is your favorite month to kind of study the market because it can really tell us based off different signals what will likely come. So welcome.
Thank you both. It's great to be here. A lot of fun. That's quite an introduction.
Yeah. So hey, I have two congratulations. One, 49ers. How about them Niners this year?
Oh gosh.
They're my second favorite team. I'm a Bronco fan, which has not been a good year, but 49ers are my second favorite team. So
go Dallas.
Yeah, no, Dallas is having a good season too. So Mike, tell us a little bit about you, the platform you have, and what you're doing.
So Altos Research, we track the U.S. housing market. We track every home for sale in the country every week. We track all the pricing, all the changes in the pricing, all the supply and demand. then we bubble up those analytics for really for the professionals in the industry to use it. Traditional housing data is backward looking. It's like, it's now January, and there's just some of the headline numbers are from October that we're hearing now. And things like the Case-Shiller index, the October number has transactions from August and September in there. It's in entirely different world than what we're experiencing right now. And so we track every week, and by tracking everything in the country, we can, there's so much signal in leading indicators about what's happening right now and what we can see about transactions that are going to close in the future. So that's what the Altos data does. We've been doing it for 16 years. And we have both individual agents and loan officers and brokerage firms as clients, tens of thousands around the country, but also we work with a bunch of the big institutional players. So companies who are maybe home builders or lenders, like at the bank level, who need to understand what's happening right now in local markets around the country. That's what we do. We talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I was going to say, just to add to that, it's so important for real estate agents to have this data, because you talk about how most of it is behind, but when you're earning a listing, and every listing matters right now, how you price the listing and knowing where the market is, you need that weekly data to have a pulse on it. Otherwise, you could really miss the mark. So that's I just want to highlight that for everyone who's listening, because I think a lot of times we do see headline news, and it is so dated, that how are you equipping your agents on giving the best advice that's also timely?
Yeah, and it's not just it's not just about pricing, but everybody wants to know how much is my house worth when I go to list it. But it's also, how long is it going to take? Do I have a lot of competition? Is that competition increasing? Is the market slowing? If the market is slowing while we have your house listed and we haven't had an offer, maybe the market is telling us that it's time to do a price change. And if we do that, if we do this properly, you take an Altos report and you put it in the hands of your client. We're going to put this in your inbox every Monday while we have your house listed. I want you to keep your eye on one number. And if this number is falling while we have your house listed, like, that's the market giving us a signal. And then the seller is now watching that number. They pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Deborah, maybe we need to do a price reduction because I'm watching this change." And so, you give that power to your buyers and sellers to make the good decisions, that they don't have to rely on you, and they don't have to fear that you're like, it's, you don't have their best interest. Like, this is the data for you. Like, you're giving the power to them. And it's so beyond just like, how much is this house worth, there's all this information that really people want to know. It's also why, when we send out hundreds of thousands of emails on behalf of our loan officers and our agent clients to their databases each week. And you can see how big the open rates are on those emails, because everybody cares. Like, everybody wants to know what's happening in the market. Like, I can't wait to look at my zip code this week and like, how is it changing? Right? It's January. So the spring market, there's new listings starting. Like, what can I see in all that data?
So I want to, everybody who's here, first of all, if you have questions, put those in chat, whether you're watching this in Zoom, whether you're watching this live in Facebook right now, or if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, which is our biggest audience, get your questions down below. Mike and his team are going to monitor this as well as I am. We will share links while we're talking. But if you have questions, now is the time to get them, whether it's live or recorded. So Mike, before we get into the housing outlook, tell us a little bit about the new opportunity with Housing Wire. Clayton's a good friend of mine. I'm actually interviewing him later today. But what's up? What are you guys going to do together?
Well, Housing Wire Media has acquired, HW Media has acquired Altos Research, my company. We've been running Altos for 16 years. And the vision is that HW Media with Housing Wire and with Real Trends and the other properties that HW Media owns is to provide the best information in the real estate economy, that ecosystem. And it is real estate, it's mortgage, it is the reverse mortgage, it's all of that content about what professionals in the industry need to know. And so as the data provider at Altos, that helps us feed data into the journalism that Housing Wire does, and it helps us reach more professionals with a bigger combined audience. And so like that's how it fits well together. Like it's the information, the data is as much a part of the story, the media story, the journalism story as the other elements. So that's why we decided to join companies. Like it's a common vision about how do we best inform the most people in real estate.
So guys, here's what I hear when I hear that. I hear, first of all, it's in housing. Everybody on this, we're mortgages. People don't get mortgages because they want loans. They get loans because they want homes. And really, the American dream is having a home and being financially free, which might be debt free. You paid off your home. That may be having enough with a financial planner where that's a financial planning decision. But here's the takeaway, everybody. Housing Wire just got more valuable. I've always been a fan of the media that they bring out, but now they're going deeper. You know, they've acquired the #1 data company, as far as I know, in real estate, helping realtors with local data. And then the news is going to get better. It's going to, the news and what they publish will be more valuable. And now there's this new offering. So if you're in the mortgage business, you know, this is something you need to pay attention to. You know, I always advocate that you subscribe to Housing Wire, and I've always advocated to subscribe to Altos Research, but now it's even more passionate, guys. It just got more valuable for you guys. So get ahead of this. It is time now to put your mobile phones down. We've introduced Mike to the community. This is the first interview, and let's just get into a housing outlet. You know, what do you want to share? Knowing that you've got an audience of, we have 34% of the top 1% that are members of ours. They use our services to deliver value. So you've got some of the most elite, most successful loan officers in America here. What do you want to share from a housing outlet perspective?
I can share some data. So we can start by talking about inventory and pricing and the leading indicators for what we see, what we can already see for 2023. Maybe I'll just start by sharing a few slides.
Share your screen. And Deb, if you could jump in wherever there's like a, hey guys, this is where you can integrate this into your social media. I mean, ask any question you want, Deborah, but let's try to, give people some guidance on how to leverage this stuff in the market.
Right. And by the way, we have all of the data I'm talking about and the conversations that we have. At Altos, we've created an ebook that is how to use market data in your business. It's a free ebook. There's a link on the screen, and I think it'll get in the various chats as well. You can click through, or you can just go to altosresearch.com and get the ebook from the top menu. But it's about the scripts to use. It's about how to talk about the data. A lot of times we're not familiar with it, or it's uncomfortable to sometimes talk about like, what does the data mean, or how do I answer these questions? That's all in the ebook. And so we've built that so that you can talk about the data in a lot of the ways that I talk about it today. So that's a good thing to know. Let me start with the home prices. The median price of single family homes in the US right now is $405,000. That's the dark red line here on this chart. Each year it peaks, prices start climbing in the first quarter, they peak at the end of June, and then they tick back towards the end of the year. Towards the end of 2022, you can see that prices move down pretty consistently, significantly more consistently than the couple of pandemic years. Home prices are still up 10% year over year from where they started 2022. What we can see in the data right now is that the year over year comparisons starting next week are going to be really hard to do because that dark red line was spiking so quickly at the beginning of last year, like still heart of the pandemic, people buying everything, mortgage rates super low. And so one of the things that we know is home prices across the country are they're going to be at best flat for year over year for 2023. We can see in a few markets the markets that boomed the biggest during the pandemic. These are the Phoenix and Austin and Boise, those kind of places. Home prices, the asking prices are already below where they were at the start of last year. So they've given up those gains. And so what's interesting is that that in a lot of the country, we have a lot slower adjustment than we've had in the big markets, the Phoenixes and Austin, for example. And so what I like to use as a leading indicator here, and this is going to be really fun in the next few weeks, is the light red line. This is the median price of the newly listed homes each week. So each week, a set of homes gets listed, and this cohort of homes is what they call in economics the wisdom of the crowds, where the sellers and the listing agents, they know how many people are at the open home. They know how many buyers they have floating around. And so that information gets priced into the listing price each week. And so the light red line here turns faster and steeper based on everything that the market knows. So you can see the last year, the light red line spiked, and see it's above the dark red line. And that was showing us how quickly and how aggressively new listings were getting priced each week. So it was climbing really dramatically. The new listings prices have been falling each week since end of May. And then you can see there's a couple of big holiday dips right at the far left end of the chart there. Those are Thanksgiving and then the Christmas, New Year's week. And then starting in a week, between next week and the following week, we'll start to see new inventory come on for the spring. You'll see the prices, it's fresh inventory. It's started to be the best stuff for the year. And so prices will climb. The thing we'll be looking for is how big that spike is for the rest of the year. It's going to be a little smaller. And so this is where between the second and third week of January, we really have visibility to how big, how much price increases we have or decreases we have for the whole year. The biggest problem, the biggest challenge for 2023 is that since we've had such big price increases recently, the year over year comparisons are going to be flat or down, probably down in the 0 to 5% down across the country, based on what we can see already in the data.
Hey, Mike, and if you're going to get to this in future slides, just tell me that's coming. But NAR report says I think it's for 2024, a 10%, increase in values. Do you see 24 going up in your numbers? And do you get to that later in the presentation? Or
we can talk about 24 now. So the active market, the interesting thing with the active market, these are homes that get listed now in January. They take offers maybe in February or March. Those deals close in March or April. And so then what we can see here are transactions that you're going to start hearing about in April and May. And so visibility beyond this year, the leading indicators are then start to become more macro. So like, what is the economy really doing? Do we go into a recession that's a hard recession or a deep, or is it turn out to be just a short recession? Those are the things that are going to impact prices in 24. And so what we can really see in the data right now are like the trends for 23. And then we think about things like, job loss rates, which right now everybody has a job and incomes are climbing still pretty quickly. So for the short term, those are positive for housing. But then does that change abruptly later in the year and really have an impact on 2024? I'm not a recession forecaster, right? Here's what's happening in the housing market right now. And so if you have a perspective, and so like the folks at NAR, for example, may be, projecting like broader economy, what they think is going to happen. And so I have to use other people's, guidance of really, do I expect a housing recession? There's a couple of things we do know though, Dave. For example, excuse me, that because everyone in America has a really low interest rate locked in for 30 years and a lot of equity, almost everybody is, unless you bought in May of this year in Phoenix, you have a lot of equity. And because of those factors, we know that even as demand drops this year, even as home prices tick back this year, and in some of the markets like Phoenix down already, even as those happen, I still have a really good deal on my mortgage, and I still have a lot of equity in my home. And therefore, even if I lose my job in a coming recession, it is significantly less likely that I'm going to walk away from my loan. And therefore, I've got, we have this, any coming economic challenge we have this year, recession we have this year, is going to have significantly fewer defaults, fewer distressed sales. There will be folks who, lose their jobs and then need to sell. But that inventory, distressed inventory, because if recession hits, let's say late this year, I lose my job, I can't pay my mortgage, I lose my job for 90 days, then I stop paying my mortgage for another 90 days. Now that distressed inventory, that's well into 2024 before that inventory even shows up on the market, assuming the sort of worst of the economy. And so this year, we know that actually will keep a lid on the available inventory of homes to buy.
All right, cool. Well, let's keep it rocking. Remember,
Yeah.
audience,
So
questions and comments, we'd love to answer them as we go.
Yeah, if there are questions along, we can take them along the way. By the way, we're watching every home for sale in the country. So this is what this data set is. And let's talk about inventory. So the fascinating thing is, so we have 491,000 single family homes on the market this week across the country. That is up significantly over last year at this time when, rates were still 3% and everybody was gobbling up everything they could as fast as they could. So we have 67% more homes on the market right now than we did last year at this time. But we're still, you can see I've got a few years marked on here. Starting 2020, pre-pandemic, 783,000 homes at that time. So we're still 39% fewer homes than back in those normal times. And that's because of a bunch of things. One is that we've all got our mortgages locked in real cheap. And if I don't have to sell, I'm not selling. And so that is keeping a lid on inventory. One of the things we can see in this chart is at the far left end of the chart, you can see this year's curve, the past year's curve. And there's a little second bump at the far left end of the chart. Starting the second week of September, the first week of September this year, that's when mortgage rates jumped from like 5.5% to 6.5% to 7.5%, like really quickly. And at that time, demand for homes stopped abruptly. And we could watch inventory climb across the country in September and October, and didn't even peak till the last day of October, which is really unusual, right? It's for inventory to be climbing that late in the year. And it did because people stopped buying. And so one of the things to look at for 2023 is where do rates settle in? If rates settle in the fives, and for example, the threshold we noticed at the beginning of September, that's 5.5%. If they settle in at about 5.5% or lower, we're going to see some transactions this year. People, like, there's some affordability that people are, like, they say, I can make offers at this. I can make my payments work at this rate. If rates, on the other hand, right now they're at about 6.5, but if they climb over 7, that's going to be really hard affordability wise. And you're going to see inventory climb more. You're going to see price reductions climb more, and you're going to see the median price, especially in those big booming markets, start to drop more aggressively. So like, that's the threshold, that 5.5% threshold that we could see in at the beginning of September was really dramatic. And then in November, December, rates started ticking back down, and you can see the curve. Inventory started falling. With 490,000 homes, we have actually fewer homes on the market now than I expected to start the year. Back in September, we were watching inventory start skyrocketing again. And so I was expecting us to have maybe more like 520,000, 10%, maybe 10% more homes on the market right now. But it's falling very quickly. We have one more week of reporting of the numbers that, like, this week still has some New Year's hangover before inventory starts to then climb at the end of January. So that's what the curve looks like. And one of the things when we talk about this with home buyers right now, is that home buyers, especially like first-time home buyers, have better selection and less competition than they've had in years. And so, like, that's finally a little bit of relief for home buyers in that sense. On the other hand, if you have a buyer who's maybe sitting on the fence, there is no signal in the data that we're suddenly going to have a lot of homes on the market. There's no signal in the data that says, oh, we're going to get back to anywhere close to the 7, 8, 900,000, 1 million homes that we normally would have on the market right now. And we've really, if you look at the far right end of this chart, 2015, like, there's 1.2 million homes on in 2015, and that market was fine, right? So there's a lot more homes on the market and so there's no signal that we're getting back to there anytime soon. If rates climb over 7 for the year, like, then we're going to get closer to 700,000 later in the year. But so if you have a buyer who's like, well, maybe I'm going to wait for a better opportunity. I could afford this house, but if I'm going to wait for a better opportunity, there's no signal that there's, like, all of a sudden going to be a ton of supply for them. And that's, I think,
So
an
Dave,
important distinction.
What immediately comes to my mind is like a cost of waiting. Because if you look at just if you did like a screenshot of just the 2022 from January into now, I mean, like Mike just said, we have 67% more homes available right now. Plus, you show the comparison of where home prices have really started to tick down just a little bit, not to mention, and I'm sure Mike will get there with the price reductions. That's a great little cocktail of a marketing strategy to show people why now might be the best time, to refresh that pre-qual, like you've gotten through the holidays. Let's make sure you didn't overspend with your Christmas or gifting budget. But now let's button up that pre-qual, because your cost of waiting, which who knows what will happen with interest rates, this may be the best time for your competitive advantage of getting into a home, basically, by using this data. And guys, like I always tell you on social media, when you have this data, it gives you credibility. You're not just a talking head that's marketing or selling. This is what brings validity to what you're advising. So use this stuff in your marketing.
Yeah, and a couple other things. William just asked, are these valuable in your local market? So, what you're seeing now is national data. but make note, one of his team members just posted a link to get, a free report in your local market. So, what they specialize in is helping you in your local market know the numbers. They have a subscription service. We'll make sure you know about it. It's incredibly affordable. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, guys, we are moving into an era where you have to be a data-driven mortgage advisor if you're going to thrive for the next couple of years. You need to be able to educate families. To Deb's point, you need to be able to show the cost of waiting and what that might look like if they don't buy now. And then you also need to help people understand that, hey, it's a great time to buy, and you're fixing in the purchase price of that home. But the whole date the rate, marry the house, like if rates go down to 4.5, which I don't think is an if, I think it's just a question of when and how fast and how low they go. You need to help consumers bridge that. So I think the Altos research combined with a mortgage coach total cost analysis really positions you to be a data-driven mortgage advisor. So keep the questions coming, and be sure to notice in chat the link from your team member, Mike. Anyways, Mike, you're killing it. People are saying how much they appreciate this. We're at halftime, so it's halftime of the 49er game. What do you got next?
Let's jump ahead to a couple other things. So yeah, we do track every zip code in the country, and what the Altos reports, we brand it for you so that it's your report going to your prospects, to your agents, and automatically going out each week. Okay, let's talk about some more data. This is a curve of where inventory may get to this year. The dotted line is this year. Each line on this curve is a year. And so you can see inventory starts climbing in this first and mostly in the second quarter. It peaks August and then starts falling back down. The low two lines there, that dark red line was last year, and that brown line was 2021, and how few homes we had on the market. What we've got here is, assuming rates stay in this 6 or even go into the 7% range, you can see how the dotted line will inventory will build in the first and second quarter and get us close to where we used to be recently, but not even a lot, like closer to normal if rates stay pretty high. If rates stay if they fall into the 5s, and Dave, like if you say if they fall into the 4s, you know better on rates than I do. And if that's the case, then they're going to be significantly less buildup, and this whole curve, this whole dotted line curve will be fewer, will be lower, because people will be like, it's significantly more affordable at that range, a lot more transaction happening, but still not a lot of impetus to sell, because like I've still got the best deal ever on my house. And so like that's a little forecast. So assuming rates stay in the 6s or even 7s, we can imagine by the end of the year, we start getting back to closer to the normal recent historical levels, but still fewer than 2015. It was over 1 million homes, and 10 years ago it was way more than that. So that is sort of a way to view how many homes are going to be on the market later this year.
Love it. And I'm just quoting numbers from Fannie Mae, and that number is by next year. So I'm just to be clear, everyone, I am not the interest rate forecaster. We'll leave that for Dan Rawich, our chief economist, Fannie Mae, and other smart people that study those numbers and make those predictions. But my point to everyone listening to this is show the data to the customers. Make sure you have access to the local data. And then remember, you're not here to sell numbers and assumptions. You're here to like, what do you think, customer? What do you think rates are going to do? What do you think values are going to do? And then you localize that and you personalize that based off of their beliefs. And that's how you help families make good decisions, is you have the data, you show the data, but most importantly of all, everyone here, guys, you're not here to sell what is happening. You're here to find out what that family believes and then help them paint a picture and help them make a good decision. So keep it coming, man. I'm loving it.
All right.
Mike, just a quick question from Jeff. He said, how does the large hedge funds purchasing homes affect the long-term picture? And he said, for example, like Lennar, home builder who's
Yes. So great question. You know, the investors, the big hedge funds, individual investors, individuals like, you know, mom and pop actually buy 94% of the homes. And so they actually have a lot more impact than the big hedge funds, although some of those big hedge funds are like, they're concentrated in Phoenix and places like that. And in those markets, we can see, because that investor demand, it was much more sensitive to economy and rate changes. That's why those guys backed off very quickly, very abruptly. And that's why inventory while inventory nationally is lower, significantly lower than 2019, in places like Phoenix, it's actually higher than 2019 right now. Like, so we've climbed back out of the pandemic lows. And so, and it's really because that investor demand stopped abruptly. And so in those markets that have a lot of that institutional buying, like those are markets that cooled more dramatically. What remains to be seen for this year is, does that institutional money exacerbate a downturn? Do they stay on the sidelines and therefore inventory builds and prices decline? Or as prices start to tick down and some of that availability starts to tick up, does that cash come in and keep a floor on any downturn? Because, you know, investors want to buy homes to invest in. And so I think that remains to be seen, how aggressively those folks are going to buy. If they see rates climbing and economy tanking from here, they may stay on the sidelines, and that would accelerate a downturn, especially in those investor heavy markets. On the other hand, if we see the signals the other way, they may jump in faster, and those opportunities for buyers right now start to evaporate. That's really what we're looking for. Those are signals we'll be looking for. And you can really start seeing them, especially as loan officers, thinking about which of your buyers are investors and how are those buyers taking advantage right now? And when did they start coming into the market? Like, those are early signals that you can start to see. If you see that investor money coming back in, like that's going to be a sign of keeping a floor on the market.
Couple key points, guys. You know, mom and pop investors, 94%. You know, it's never been more important that you're being proactive to identify the people in your database that are investors, that are likely to buy second homes. Start making sure you're locked and loaded for who is interested in moving up. Because, guys, that's where it is. We're not going to have a rate and term rate tidal wave. Even when rates come down, the majority of homes are at 2% and 3%. So you're gonna need to have this data, and then you're gonna need to help that family make a decision like, hey, should I rent out my home and buy a new home and become a real estate investor? Or, hey, does it make sense to achieve my financial freedom to still move up and sell that 3% rate? So this data is going to be more important than ever, everyone. There is a link to the pricing. I mean, guys, this thing is a no-brainer. For the individual user version, it's $79. And for a team edition, it's $149 a month. So, I mean, it's really affordable. But Mike, we're getting a lot of free value. We appreciate it. But I really love how affordable you've made this for pretty much anyone. That's
great. Let's shift gears and talk about pendings real quick. The one of the things about, so this is tracking the number of homes pending in contract right now. Each bar is a week, and the light colored portion of the bar are the new ones going into contract each week. And what we can see is that, the pendings volume dropped dramatically starting at the end of May. There's only 251,000 single family homes in contract right now. That's 35% fewer than last year at this time. you can see in the middle of the chart, the dip in the middle of the chart is New Year's last year. And then at the far right end of the chart is right now. And the couple of things that this means is that these are transactions that are going to close in January and February and March. The headlines about transaction volume are going to be very low and bearish for several months, because these are the homes that are already in contract. And so because it's dramatically lower, the year-over-year comparisons are going to be bad. The total number, like all of those things, they're going to be really bearish headlines for a bunch of years, or a bunch of actually several months. What we want to watch is in this data each week, do we see the uptick, and how big do we see it? Are people starting to buy the homes? And I like this time of year because my favorite time with the LTOS data is when we get to be contrarian and bullish, where the headlines are really bad, but the data is actually starting to be like, hey, people are buying homes. And so that's when those are really fun times to be with the data. And that's what we get to watch in the pendings data, is one of the data points of the leading indicators in the next few weeks. So as of right now, though, what we can see how the light portion is getting smaller and smaller each week that's through the end of the year, of course. And so that tells us that those headlines they're not going to be great for the next few months. And so you're going to have to battle those headlines with the data, with actual data, with data saying, yes, I know you read that home sales are way down, but actually inventory isn't up as much as you would think, because people aren't selling their homes. So if you found the home that you can afford, that you like now, there isn't a signal that you're going to have a ton of inventory, even though you just read that sales are down. Like, that's what we want to do with the data in this view. Let's hit on a few other things. Let's do price reductions and what price reductions mean, and then maybe we can wrap it up at that point. As of right now, 38.5% of the homes on the market across the U.S. have had price cuts. Normally, across the U.S., about 30 to 35% is normal, and that's, homes take a price cut. Sometimes they're overpriced, it's intentional. Sometimes the seller is a wacko and wants to, fish for offers. And what happens is, because we know that 35% is normal, when the market's hot, you start to get some people making those wacky high offers, and only 25% or 20% need to take a price cut. And you can see each line here is a year. The light red line was last year, and last spring, because people were still buying everything in sight, price reductions were 15%. So 35% of people think they've overpriced their homes, but because of bidding wars and all the other things, we have only 15 needed to take a price cut. Then the market slowed. The light red line, you can see price reductions climb dramatically in the second and third quarter. And this is a point where we're advising clients, if price reductions are climbing aggressively, that means this is a very important time to price our home when we list it, to price it right. We want to be in front of that curve, not behind that curve. And so we can watch this line while we have your house listed. The other thing to note here is in the light red line, in September, you can see that moment in September when rates spiked, the price reductions had hit a little plateau, and then they started climbing again. So this is when rates jumped from 5.5 to 6.5 to over 7. And it wasn't until November, December before price reductions started to fall back down. Some homes get sold, some homes get pulled off the market. But what we could see is in the price reductions data, exactly at that moment that rates spiked, that first week of September, that's where we know, and why we know that demand was like put a real damper at that moment. It's why I use 5.5% as like a threshold where we can see like consumer demand really like picking back up again. Here's what we know now. With price reductions, we get fresh inventory now for the next few months. So as a percentage, you know, those homes get listed, they don't need price cuts until they're on the market for a few months. So as a percentage, price reductions will fall through January, February, March, and then start ticking back up second quarter. You know, if a house is listed in February and now it's April and I haven't sold yet, now I start thinking about doing a price cut. So we're at 38.5% right now. It is significantly more than other recent years, but recent years have all been really, really hot years. And so if we watch price reductions tick over 40% again very soon, that's implying that you know, demand is slowed, that transactions that are happening in the future are going to be lower, because like the homes that are on the market now take a price cut in February or March, they get offers in April, they close in May. So using the price reductions now is a leading indicator of what we can see for those in for example, in May, transactions in May that we start, you know, getting done in May. A couple other things about this. So 35% is our normal national number range of price reduction. In markets that are investor heavy, for example, Phoenix or Boise, we know that normal for Phoenix is actually 40% with price reductions. But this fall in Phoenix, 60% of the homes on the market, and in some parts of Phoenix, 70% of the homes on the market had taken price cuts. That is a dramatically slowed market. Now what we're going to watch in those local markets, does it go 70? Does it start easing back down into the 50s? Because we start getting some investors and some buyers who are taking advantage of those opportunities that they haven't had for several years. And so really, this is the leading indicator that we want to keep an eye on here for where transactions are going to head in the future.
What a great briefing, my friend. Anything else you want to say on this before we kind of unpack it and do some Q&A?
No, that's I think that's a great place to leave it.
All right, guys. So I'll make a quick run here and then Deb, hand it off to you for some unpacking. You know, I just want to make sure everyone's noticing in chat, you know, there's links to everything. I mean, we've got a link to the YouTube where he's doing a weekly update. For those of you asking for slides, Mike's posting these on Twitter. Make sure you go follow him there. You know, he's given a link to go sign up for the service so that you can have your brand on it. You can put your database in it, and you can really be delivering this data in a consistent way. So one thing I want to draw attention to, Scott Nicholson in chat is, you know, he's just saying, hey, my head is spinning with ideas, and so is mine. And so I want to throw it out there to, you know, all you top producers out there. I would love to interview someone who's using Altus data and how you're using it and you're integrating it into Mortgage Coach. So reach out to me in social, or y'all know how to get a hold of me. I would love to.
You know who is a good one is John Downs.
Let's
He
get him
uses
on.
both. Yeah.
You want to reach out, or you want me to?
Okay, I'll reach out. He's a client.
Yeah, John Downs, because he's a client of yours as well. And I can't think of anyone better. He's super sharp. And then remember, guys, Lender Launchpad, you know, you can take some of these insights, put it in Lender Launchpad with a total cost analysis, maybe your own presentation. Remember, guys, I'm telling everybody that to be a data-driven mortgage advisor, you need to have Mortgage Coach. You need to be delivering these custom digital strategies to consumers, but you need some slides. You know, you need to have these insights ready to roll. So Deb, anything you want to ask or you want to unpack here before we, you know, do a little more Q&A?
Well, I just wanted to, I actually had Scott do a Lender Launchpad example, and Mike, I would love for you to even check this out after the episode. But if you guys click on the link that I just put in chat, he's actually using Mike's YouTube video that he does every Monday. So if you guys haven't hit the bell for the subscription on Mike's YouTube channel or Altos Research, make sure you hit that bell. I mean, I'm watching that along with Mortgage Coach. Those are like the top two that I'm consuming and studying every week. But check out this person. Isn't this cool, Dave?
Yeah, no, this
Yeah,
is
you put
cool.
this
See
together?
how he put some content here. He's got a total cost analysis for an affordability strategy here. I want to remind things, guys, one of the complete layups that he just gave you was, house listings, they're coming down. And so to be able to identify those listings in markets, create a total cost analysis. This interview I did a few days ago. I don't know if you watched this one yet, Deborah, but I interviewed Sean in Nashville, and I'll bet you he's already using some of this data, but you could go out, you could use this data, you could identify listings, and you could put seller buy down strategies. Hey, realtor, or hey, home builder, look at how I can help you sell this home in today's market. And, I would probably use some of the data in this presentation as part of my conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I loved Sean. I love Sean as a human being. I actually had him on our podcast not too long ago, but he's just a really cool dude, like from the soul deep. But when I saw that interview, I thought, man, this dude needs to be using Lender Launchpad, because everything he was doing, it was kind of like, putting the TCA in the video and the lender site.
I'm sure you're on it, Deb. I'm sure you and Scott do that. We're like, he will be soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So Mike, before we run out of time, we got about 8 minutes. I do want to close out with a little bit of happiness hacking. So I want to save 5 minutes for that. But knowing that you have this big group of mortgage leaders and mortgage professionals, what is some of your advice to them on how to leverage your data, or just how to leverage data in general to be more valuable to real estate agents and home buyers, home sellers, and consumers?
I'll give you two ideas. One is that I like to say there's only 3 questions in real estate. How much is my house worth? What's for sale? And how's the market? And a lot of us, we have like valuation things. We know, that how much is my house worth? A lot of people are trying to answer that question. We know there's the IDX, and we have Redfin apps and things for what's for sale. But answering the question, how's the market, is really how we engage. It's how we establish our expertise. It's how we, these are is it a good time? Or I've got an opinion about the economy. What do I need to, all of these things are how's the market questions. And it's always fresh. There's always new data. And that's really why what you want to think about when you're doing market data. The other thing to think about, especially as loan officers, is, a lot of the loan officer business is reaching realtors. And so, a lot of our loan officer clients are using our, automated email, which we create the reports for you and your zip codes every week, and email them out. And you can email them out to your home buyers and seller database, right? Your homeowner database, but you can also email them out to your realtor database and say, hey, here's my report. And, there's a lot of realtors out there who need this data, but they don't know to go to Altos and subscribe for themselves. So they love to get it from you. Those are 2, good ways to think about using the data in your business.
So before
that's like my secret, Mike. Like, everyone thinks I'm this genius, and I just regurgitate what I hear from Logan and what I hear from Mike and a little bit of Mortgage Coach. I just put it all together.
So before we close out with some hacking happiness strategies, tell everybody, I've mentioned your service, but just give them 1 minute on why they should sign up today, and make sure they hear it from you personally, how to get started with you guys.
Yeah. Everybody right now is worried about what's happening in the market. And so they need you to be the expert and to, have the data. And so, you can go to altosresearch.com. You can book a free consult with our team. You can go get the ebook and start using the market data in your communication right now, automated. Like we can literally have your entire database have the market data this afternoon. And like, that's like a good way to go tackle.
Oh, I love it. All right, check it out. So guys, he also did, I don't know if it was an actual TED Talk, but it seemed like a TED Talk. And I do think this is super important, this market. It's a rough year, like it is not easy days out there for real estate agents or mortgage professionals. And so I know you only got 5 minutes, but share, enough information that first of all, they go watch it's a free video on YouTube. I put a link down below. But give us a few minutes on hacking happiness in the market.
Hacking Happiness is personal development work that I have done over the years. And as an entrepreneur, you have the ups and downs, and I've had some downs over the years. And this is work that I had to do, internal work to ultimately save myself, the business, but also unlock unbelievable amounts of success in the world. And the fundamental thing is this: our emotions are expressed and controlled by neurotransmitters, hormones in our bodies. And there's 4 of them that I talk about: serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and cortisol. But the fundamental observation is that we have control over these neurotransmitters. We can control their levels. So when our serotonin is up, we feel purposeful and we are excited about the world and we are happy and engaged. And so we can take actions to increase our serotonin, and we can take actions to decrease our cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So for example, when your cortisol is high, you're running from the bear and you're narrow. You don't have creative solutions. You have very narrow options. You're in fight or flight mode. So when the phone rings, is it like, what's going wrong now? On the other hand, when your serotonin is high, we are feeling opportunity. We're seeing opportunity in the world. Now when the phone rings, is what's the opportunity on that phone call? So you think about in a world where we need to make a lot of phone calls, or when the phone rings a lot, and think about how we can, if we can adjust our serotonin up and our cortisol down. Now, every time that phone rings, now we look at opportunity. And so we get in a mode, especially in a mode like in the mortgage mode, we're very numbers driven. We're very like goal oriented. We're very, dollar focused. And those are actually dopamine signals. So dopamine is like, oh, I closed a deal. I feel great. Like that feel great to close a deal. Like that feels awesome. And that's dopamine, but it also goes away very quickly. When I look at the experience of, like, Dave, you talked about this, like I make homes, help people create their family. I am solving real problems in the world. That's serotonin, and that lasts for days. And so what I teach is that you can control these neurotransmitters. We can drop our cortisol down and we can increase our serotonin up, because if we're just in dopamine mode, that can go away very quickly. If I miss my month, if I don't close those deals, if I have some escrows that collapse, now my dopamine falls, my cortisol drops, and it's very hard to sustain a really powerful, productive business. So that's what I'm teaching in Hacking Happiness. We can focus on our serotonin. We can achieve purposefulness. We can drop our cortisol down. All of a sudden, we are no more expansive. We're more charismatic. We attract business. And if you think about, when you're in your most awesome productive mode and you attract a lot of business, think about it. It's a serotonin experience that you have accidentally, you've increased your serotonin and dropped your cortisol. And when you're in that space, magic stuff happens. So that's what I'm teaching in Hacking Happiness.
So guys, it's a 15-minute video. He shares a number of tactics like meditation, which is essential for me. I mean, I'm ADD and dyslexic, and if I don't meditate, I'm off the rails. So I want you guys to watch this video and then write down what are your activities to improve your happiness. Because at the end of the day, data is great, but if you don't show up with the right attitude, you don't show up with the right energy, you don't win. Like, your energy is everything. So guys, check out the video, write down your things. And then lastly, one of the keys to happiness is showing love to strangers. So Mike's not a stranger anymore, but if you want to say I love you to Michael, click on that little heart down there, everybody. You know, those little emotions, give him some hearts. And Michael, I'm going to put myself out and just say, I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I'm feeling left out here.
I love you, Deborah.
I'm just kidding.
I love
It's
you
great.
too.
But it's really fascinating, right? Like, feel how like that, it's great to watch those hearts. It's great to give those hearts. Like that stays with us and makes us more powerful in the day.
I'm with you. I'm fired up. Well, hey, I am super pumped that we got to meet on Zoom. I hope we get to meet in the physical world someday. And everybody, remember, I'm going to be looking for some interviews. John Downs is on deck. But if there's some badass top producing mortgage professionals using Mortgage Coach, using this data source, you know, we want to get you on the channel. Anyways, have an awesome weekend, everybody. This is a wrap. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you got value, give us a like. Take care, y'all. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.